last time on the Empire's Edge.
So they're kind of just like biting into the ground and pulling
dragging
themselves
forward, kind of
Oh, no,
flipping their goose off. So
It's a lot. Well, hold on. I don't like that we're getting more information than we usually do. Why are you being so forthcoming with information? Have I mentioned that I hate this?
top of the next round, Jacob.
Oh, that's a high DC. I don't like this at all.
We should go back and make a plan.
Thank you!
All right, yeah. I will take off my armor. I knew you'd do that.
And it says Vidborg and throw. Shatask comes back up through the tunnel that emptied it. It opened up into it. Says, congratulations. You are now truly sisters, and yet somehow stranger cousins. You must go before the council. Let's return to the city. Well, before we start, Zelen, i.e. Natalie, had a question about passive versus active perception. I just thought we'd start the game by saying, well, here's our determinant. This is the way that I think it makes the most sense to work.
Firstly, we had determined that it was not active perception, but try-hard perception.
Yeah, that was the conversation at breakfast. It is try-hard perception. That is canonical.
So instead of it being you're just trying to beat your passive perception, that's your absolute like bottom base, you can never get lower than that, that you really can be so focused on something, you can blind yourself to stimuli that's out there. You're maybe even way focusing on whatever the something is that could be jumping up and running up on you. You think you're totally aware, but the reality of human perception is you can completely block out something and not be aware of it the way you'd think you would be.
Like you're playing a horror video
you'd
game,
like to be.
and then
Oh,
your
yeah.
cat reaches up and taps you on the butt, and you accidentally kick it.
Yeah, or you just jump out of your socks.
Something as simple as just like, yeah, Boris was looking that way and Zelen was looking that way, but the thing came from the direction that Jacob was looking.
Yeah, whatever that might be. So I want to keep
Bold of you to assume I have a passive.
that when we're rolling for that active perception, that perception roll, that you could roll lower than your passive perception. So passive perception is just whatever is drifting into you. You're aware if you're not looking for it, a thing happens, and there you are.
Yeah,
then,
I have no ability to formulate an argument. I just have really high numbers.
Okay. But that's what we're going to roll. So active, when I ask for a perception roll, if it's below your passive perception, we're going with that lower number because of the minutia and the data and stuff we block out and blank out, and we'll just roll with that number as we've done to this point.
Roll.
Okay, so after you guys were leaving the Murmuring Sea, it's a number of days to get back, but it's
That sounds like a number of long rests.
it does a number of
Oh,
Yay,
good.
Hit points
And
back.
Click button, yay.
right. So while you guys are doing that it's actually going to take a little more time. You realize even by the end of that first day, Jacob, without even making a survival check, that you did not get back to the point where you're discussing, let's have a camp. We need to rest. That you are even short of that. So instead of taking about 5 days to get back, it could take as many as like 7 to get back because you're carrying these containers with this liquid in it, and it isn't like they have a sealed jar lid. So you're taking more time. You're handing them up and down to each other. You don't want it to drip out of that, I would think, on yourselves.
Awful would that be?
You have nightmares about
I'm assuming it's smelling terribly.
Oh, I
Yeah,
just mean
I'd say.
Is it
spilling
still
it.
talking?
like rancid. That I hadn't even thought about that detail. I wish I had. Would have been awesome. I did think that you guys might have nightmares when you're still in the area of tunnels that has like the icky slime on the walls that you can imagine it like popping an eye out or a mouth starts to form. But there isn't anything like that.
What
really.
I see on my drug hallucinations is my business,
That's
and none
all,
of yours.
It's all your own business. But eventually you are getting back into passing more drones, other soldiers, parties that seem to be doing whatever they're doing, adjoining caves, a lot more wear on the walls and in passages where a lot of Inurriak passed through this area, and you're in the outer reaches of the city, Chik'Dakdahn. And then eventually, I would think even to Jacob in particular, that the tunnels start to look familiar, and then you're coming right back up into the main portion of the city once again. So
Home sweet home.
anything you guys wanted to do in that week's period coming back, apart from just keeping those jars safe,
Yeah, I was about to say,
spelling
not
up,
dripping,
whatever.
Murmuring sea all over the floor.
Yeah. So anything else you want to do, just state that right now, that there might be something to prepare, or if not, we'll just keep going.
I can't.
If an opportunity presented itself as we were going back, I would think I would find it very helpful if the three of us had a space that was private that when we went back, we didn't have a room that was just in a hallway. That we had a space that we could rest and relax in that actually had a closed door. So
you're kind of like talking to the lobby for that once you get back?
yeah,
Is that the point
or
you're-
talking to Shatask
Okay.
about it, that, that she's seen now that for us to be at our top level of resource, we need to be able to rest, and it's not restful for us to be in a place where one of us, where we can't fully sleep and relax.
What use is a rest if it's not restful for resting?
Well, and it's they might not have a concept of privacy because they don't care, but we do.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. Yeah, you can certainly ask for it when you get back to the...
Can we also ask for a lead box so Chik'Dakdahn will stop reading our thoughts?
Right.
Is
What
that
are we going to
something
do, put our head in the
Can
lead
we-
box?
we each just have our own hole on either side of it. We just stick our heads in, just like, all right, the meeting of the minds can begin.
We ask for a roll of aluminum foil to make beanie caps for
I just-
ourselves.
Break into the MCU and steal Magneto's helmet.
They're not gonna read my brain waves. Got my tinfoil lined cardigan. Not cardigan. What's the Carhartt? Carhartt is the brand I was going for. Cardigan.
I like cardigan.
Yeah.
My tinfoil line cardigan. They're not going to read my thoughts.
I sink with my armpits.
It's extra cozy.
My ideas stink.
We were playing a game, weren't we?
Yeah, the
So-
game is how many times can I get the DM to just break?
Yeah, that you probably do it very easily. So as you're coming back up that main tunnelway, and even though it seems like it's probably a common tunnelway, it's not specifically used by the clan you're working for. But when you're coming up to that, you really are re-entering the city area in like the loading dock section of Kree Och Rogan. That it seems like maybe they use it more than anybody else. You do notice one of those shock troops is right there guarding it, Boris, and you can't help but look at
To
his
see if
his
the honor tally.
carapace. Yeah, to look to see there, and you see a number of the things written on him that are similar to things that they were written on, Thovit and Isk.
Do you see the murmuring sea symbol?
Yeah, so
Oh.
as you look at that, that's the one thing I was about to say that you don't notice. It seems like shock troops might not actually go to the
I guess
Murmuring
they only
Sea.
send the magically inclined folks to
That's
do this kind of a
interesting.
mission.
Well,
That implies.
Isk and Thovid aren't magical.
Right.
Well,
yeah.
I'm guessing there is a difference in intellect. That they're using the
Mm.
big ones as
Big
breakers.
drones. Kinda-
Or big drones is kind of the wrong way about it, but as breakers. That they're punching holes in walls and formations, and
I'm gonna go see
the rabbits,
George. Like that kind of a character.
Yeah, maybe old Georgie. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I hate that book. So
Oh.
we're gonna have a brief
Ignore that.
intermission wherein I strangle David, and then the podcast is gonna flop because he does all the editing.
now, additionally, as you're like reading his carapace, that you also note that there's a lot of the same sort of things that Isk and Thovit had.
Mm.
That there is battles with other Inurriak, as well as various
Groups,
creatures underground.
military.
But the one that stands out and seems most predominant is that this particular shock troop is apparently referred to by one of his kills, and that is as the Destroyer of the Stone Man. And you believe that might actually be like a golem, like Stone Golem,
Neat.
that he was involved in something like that. But it also makes you go, oh, so those are down here too. Somewhere.
Fun.
What isn't flipping down here?
Yeah.
A way out?
The way
Air.
out, yeah.
Sunlight. Well, we've got
Outside.
air because we haven't
Sunlight,
suffocated.
plants.
But you are now, instead of brought through the openings that are into the main compound that have become, if not familiar to you, they are known, that you're being led out from like one road out into a side boulevard, and then you're out in an area of the city you had not been to heretofore, and that seems like a much more major road. And you're now picking up on that there are numerous drones and shock troop and soldiers, as well as like kind of the ribboned and robed spellcasters, the sisters, and you're already noticing differences in how the ribbons are set up, that you probably have different clans moving about here too. And it is not exactly noisier. There's a lot more clicking going on, that kind of sounds. It's not like what a human or, elven or some other kind of, surface race would be like, but it's definitely a major boulevard and maybe even a market. And you're seeing the clan structures from the front, and they are much more well developed, built with an aesthetic eye, though they probably deny it themselves. as you're getting this look. And so what you used to see over the top of Clan Otterogan's,
Compound.
skyline, you're actually seeing the full buildings and not just the tops of them. And you can see that they are in their own way, beautiful buildings, that there is something to architecture here. A lot of conical towers that are making circles upon circles, and they spread off into the distance in this cave with lights all over the place, like their own individual, very high-powered light spells, like little suns.
This feels intentional. Would you like an insight roll to see if are we being put on display here, like much more so than
go ahead and roll the insight.
The very back roads way that we took? Damn it.
Do you want to mention it to me?
Yeah, well, absolutely. As I'm looking around, it's like, man, this is
puppy dog.
This is a lot more public than the way that we left. He said out loud with
14.
his 5 on his insight roll.
Well, maybe if I don't look, if I'm just like then I get a 19.
My passive insight.
At 14, Boris, you're thinking to yourself, we have definitely not been out here, and it's definitely a more public area, but you see or believe you're being led to what could actually be the main doors to this clan's compound.
Okay,
so you're probably looking at it
a formal greeting as
Yes.
opposed to kind of the more secretive,
we're embarrassed by the servants. We're bringing them in that way,
or we don't want to acknowledge the servants.
Right.
Are people looking at us with curiosity? I
No,
mean,
ants are.
Are we arising?
That's a tough one. So if you want to roll that, go ahead and roll at disadvantage.
I'll do that.
What does that mean?
That you roll 2,
This
and
is
you're taking the lower one.
Are we doing perception or investigation?
This
Insight.
this is an insight.
Oh,
You're gauging the moods of a thing.
I thought we were just seeing if they were looking at us. Lower one was a 19 though.
Wow, that was
Mine
really,
too.
really good.
Nice.
The drones, of course not. Nothing like that at all. Shock troops, not really. Soldiers, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ribboned spellcasters, absolutely.
Mm.
And you can tell that if you turned and looked and made eye contact with them, that you're
they've
actually
got eyes.
Yeah,
They
I
can
know.
see us,
but
we
I
can
like
make
the
eye
weird-
contact.
The word you stumbled on was contact though, because you said eye just fine. Like, eye contact.
Yeah, they make eye contact by just like touching their eyeballs.
I've seen that meme, and it's just.
I guess the point I was thinking about was they don't have eyelids, and so it would just you might not actually like to make eye contact with them because it's just starey back to you. It would just seem kind of weird.
If they don't blink, I wonder what their passive perception is. It must be fantastic.
Better than their active perception, that's for sure.
Try hard.
But what you're aware of, Jacob, is that the same way that sometimes when Chik'Dakdahn is like talking near you mentally, and then you feel just cut off,
Mm-hmm.
and conversations happening, you're getting a lot of that, like overlapping circles of you've been excluded from a conversation, but then also you're aware that it seems as though they're trying to get what's
Airdrop a
into your
conversation to
thoughts.
us.
Yeah, but then
They're
you
trying
feel,
to get into our thoughts?
of course, because that's how they spy on each other. These overlapping circles of spellcasters, and you're aware at that point too that there is more of an entourage that has joined the rest of you as you've hit this main boulevard, and you are now surrounded by your clan's spellcasters.
As we're
And
walking,
And I just fall into step as a noble. That of course they're looking at me. I'm better than them.
As I'm walking, though, the
Yeah,
whole
noted.
time, I want to be thinking back to all of the hardest battles we faced, like with all the things fighting the dragons, fighting all the stone giants. So if anyone does make
If
it through, they
anything
get
comes
anything.
through.
That's
They're
a
like,
good idea.
oh my God, what
That's
are these
cool.
guys doing?
Yeah,
let-
that's a good idea.
Then only feeds back into
I'll make note
mine,
of
which my whole thought process is admire me, you peasants.
Exactly.
And then yours is we're really dangerous.
Yeah.
Be impressed.
Mine is going to be.
Flowers and dead bugbears, darts through the neck.
Flowers. Yeah, I am going to be thinking about like I like the outside. I like blue sky.
So
because
you're-
that's their
so
hell.
you're
thinking
thinking
about
forest with the
hell.
blood of my
Yeah,
enemies.
that's
that
their
was it,
hell.
I was
Yeah.
saying, I'm getting they're getting glimpses, little thoughts before they're blocked out by your own people that there is like from Boris, I'm an elite, and of course they're peasants, of course they're watching, and I'm getting I am so dangerous, I could destroy so much stuff right now, and then on the other side of that,
I like hell.
right, yeah.
I wish I
Hell's
was in
great this
hell
time of
right
year.
now.
Like I'm picking flowers that are actually flames up in my hand, and I'm skipping through hell. Isn't it lovely?
Hey, but I do want to notice with my 19 negative whatever thing that it.
What?
where you had to roll 2 dice and you had to take the one that was
Oh,
Okay.
disadvantage. Yeah.
With
You've
my
been doing this for a year. How do you still not know what you're doing?
because I can't put all this stuff in my brain, and I need my brain for the things that are important.
Well, this is important.
Okay,
The other one
this
just
is
pays you
important.
money.
Yeah, but
The
it's
other
not,
one, yeah.
it's not how we
Speaking of
pay
which,
the mortgage.
subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.
Needing it now.
So I
Pay
want
us so
to
Natalie
I
can
want to pay
learn the
attention
game.
if I notice there's a difference in the ribbons. Like, are the people with a certain type of ribbons closer? People with different type of ribbons further away? Some in front. I want to notice if there's a pattern in the ribbons.
Go
What do
ahead
the
and-
ribbons say?
Go ahead and
They say
roll,
we're important.
roll an investigation.
Just normally.
the-
Just normally, yeah. An investigation.
I was about to crack a joke about a passive investigation, but that is
She rolled-
actually a thing.
She rolled a natural 18.
18
Wow.
plus 4, 22.
You are positive that the way that the people that is the spellcaster and other clans have arranged themselves, it's a little bit like chess pieces guarding chess pieces. That it isn't coincidental that probably anyone apart from drones, and maybe as you're moving further into this area that seems like it's an open market, that there are various people, beings, I should say, that are working in this market. But everyone that is either observing you or has been sent with a mission to gather information about you, that they're in particular places in relation to each other to maximize whatever abilities they're bringing to bear right now. You think there is what's in essence like a Cold War, if not power play, demonstration of force and ability.
Hmm.
And that also would explain something about the entourage that you've been.
Yeah, that's
surrounded
really
by right
interesting
now.
because we are a very unusual resource. So I bet they are
Truly.
kind of trooping us around.
Yet knowledge of you has probably gone through the entire city by this time.
Mhm.
All right. So then, as you're approaching the main clan doors, they are opened by shock troops, and there are 6 shock troops in front of the building now. And you were taken instead of through
I think
to
that's the most we've seen at one instant.
yes, 6 is the most here at the main clan doors. That when you're brought in, it's a series of switchbacking tunnels that are bringing you higher and higher, and you realize the openings that are always to your right the first time, the left to the second, that you are in a conical tower and switching back as it slowly is being drawn in toward a peak,
Like
a point.
huge stalagmites.
Yes, exactly. Like like a cone sitting on a floor, and you're running up one of those walls to one side, and then at a certain height, and you can see out into the city down below you there. It's lovely there. You're brought around to the other side of that cone, and you can see that most of their construction in this area of the city, or at this part of their compound, would be like circular, conical, with rings inside rings. And you're brought through a series of rings to where it would join what would have to have been Jacob, roll survival, and
Yes.
Boris, go ahead and roll siegecraft.
Sweet.
32.
Yeah, you are positive.
15.
Yeah, and you're less sure. But Jacob, you're positive that as you're approaching the building, there was a central conical tower, and it was surrounded by other towers outside of it, shorter and smaller, that you have come from one of the shorter, smaller ones into that upper tower. And then you go further and further into that one, that you get to the very center, a 6 ring in this tower. And as you're looking down through like a gallery, and there's lights of different color from different sources illuminating it, and then you're brought down to the level of that gallery, and the council. You would assume the same council as before are there. It is not the chamber you guys were brought to before that had the pit in the middle. You're being escorted, and at this point, you've lost the spellcasters, including Chik'Dakdahn, but you still have, just because you recognize them, you still have Isk and Thovit. They're still escorting you right into the middle. When they get to the perimeter where the circle of the elders are, they stop, and it's apparent that you should move into the middle between them. But there is no pit you're into, and it is a very elaborately designed, colored, appointed room with various kinds of chitin that is in it. Stones are worked into it. Even a couple of artifacts from the surface are worked into this one as well.
Wow.
It's very much a different room. Light coming through translucent panels of some sort, giving it unusual a range of colors too. It's been the most decorated room that you've seen
Yeah, it sounds very elaborate.
to this point.
Well,
Yeah, very
a
elaborate.
grand receiving room rather than like private chambers.
And then
Very counterintuitive to the way that they typically operate. Like who would have spent all the time to make
All the
this? Like
resource.
what?
Yeah.
Well,
What is
no,
there?
that's the point.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know, it's like a peacock tail. It's like, look how much resource I can expend and still be successful.
Right.
You know, I am demonstrating my power.
One of them comes into your mind and says, I am Mervik. And you would have recalled that as being one of these 6 council members that were named to you before. You are in Grand Council Hall. You are welcomed here as Vidma. You are now sisters, though still cousins. We call you sisters, and you were accepted into the clan. Speak your names to the clan.
Boris Kirsonov.
Jacob Treadstone.
Zelen Adhar.
You shall be known by these names among the clan members, and you are given right to, and the word almost falters. It's like think, talk, speech to the soldiers and to the drones. Now, of course, it doesn't say how you do that or how it's going to happen, but apparently you've been granted the ability to give orders to at least a certain pre-assigned group or a certain
Ooh.
cast of them.
All right.
That's part of what it means to be one of these Vidma.
Now, as far as I'm aware, it's been like, you know, their language and telepathy. So now to just figure out how to telepathy.
Right. Yeah.
And then once, and it's still, you would assume Mervak, although I think if another came into your head, you would have no idea that's a different one. But 3 of the council members are holding out one of their appendages, and that same apparent voice says, your containers with the Murmuring Sea.
And
Each
Yeah,
one
we'll
is
give 'em.
waiting for one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Hand it over happily.
Slide a hand check to make sure we don't spill it. No, I just pass
So
it on.
You pass those over to them, and everyone go ahead. I think that would be, that'd be a perception that as you're
Drop
focused
yours
in
like
this
the
area.
power stone.
Just a normal perception?
Yes.
12.
23.
Hey.
Hey, I rolled a 3.
I rolled a 10.
And the numbers getting higher
Rolled
and higher.
11.
Yeah, so that's
Hey.
staggering.
Shut up.
Jacob, you notice that this council member, you don't know which one it is, but as it is just leaning forward to take that one from you, you recognize that there is what's a necklace, a kind of a talisman, and the thing at the end of it seems similar to something that's been worn by Shatazk. You'd say almost identical. And as it draws this thing back, it makes a point to touch this container you just handed to her, to that necklace talisman. And then they go back to their positions, and a vibration starts in all of your heads. And it grows louder, and it becomes louder again. There is light that's now coming from some of those translucent panels. And as you're watching it, those containers begin to compress, the ones you handed to them. There's no liquid spilling out from inside it, but it is growing like energetically dense. You can see the limb that's holding it for each one of these council members, that they're exerting more force, and they're starting to lower as though the things have more of a weight. And then when they've compressed to the size of maybe like a golf ball or so, something really small, it gets to that point, and then this stops, the vibration stops, the light stops, and then they start winding it onto a string that they produced from their own garments. They wind it and form it into a necklace, and then those same ones offer them back to you. They're holding them back out to
Take
you.
it and put it on.
Yeah,
Does
me
it look
too.
just like the one that they were
It
wearing?
looks just
Okay.
like the things. There's subtleties to the
I
difference,
see.
and since
Okay.
Jake, you made that roll like into the 30s before,
Yeah.
you would notice that just the points of compression, how these things buckled, and wherever the chitin was thicker here and thinner there, whatever, that it has different convolutions, but by and large they're the same. And there's no liquid that ever boiled out of it, so you only imagine that liquid is still somehow inside there, even though it's like condensed or
This is interesting. Okay, so I'm going to put it on, and I'm curious to know if that's the telepathy, if that's what's going to help us
Oh, that would
talk
have been
to
nice.
these things.
So you're thinking through it,
Right.
and it doesn't change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
anything.
my immediate thought was that it was a spellcasting focus, like how I use my holy symbol.
Mm.
So religion is the skill I'm proficient in, but I suppose arcana could be an alternative to see if it is as such.
Yeah, roll the check. I think we'd go with probably, even though religion's made you think about it, I think it'd be an arcana check for this.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone want to make an arcana check, go right ahead.
Sure.
11.
6.
Ooh, not good.
We need to get proficient.
54. He's like, oh, not good. It's only a
7.
60. Oh,
I'm pretty sure they used magic to make the things compress that way. But beyond that, I mean, it's a theory, that Boris is, I guess, at this moment keeping to himself. And it's a reasonable theory, but there's
game
nothing from any of your knowledge bases that would validate that that's actually the case. And
because none of us have to use a spellcasting focus, do we?
no, that
Well,
isn't how you
technically,
work.
I do. It's just my
Yeah.
holy symbol.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, fair.
But certainly you don't, Jacob, and
Mm.
neither does Ellen.
Zelen does. It's her staff.
But she doesn't have to, does she?
Only for the things that are in my
Just
staff.
the things that are in the staff, yeah.
No,
Oh.
no. The spellcasting focus is, the implement with which you use for spellcasting.
I see what you're saying. All right, so once that's done, and there is like a mental nod, there's no other words that are needed to be said, but you are now part of this clan
Nice.
in a very, very official way. And
all the elders or whatever they are,
council members,
the council members, they all appear to be part of this clan, right? It's not like
Yes.
there's some people who
Yes.
are kind of pissed off that we're
Yeah.
now okay.
if there's a city clan, you don't know anything about that kind
Right,
of structure
okay.
right now, yeah.
Right. Okay.
And they, and then another, someone, begins up and says, I am Imyan, which is the one that talked to you most of the time, the last time you were here, and said, you are members of clan. Now, you'll be taken to your quarters as before, and you may have time to rest, and we shall consider the best use of your resource and the agreement we made before. So, you are dismissed from this place, but you may stay and bear witness to what happens next.
I want to stay.
So it's apparent you
Yeah,
should be stepping
same.
out of the middle circle.
Yeah.
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 So
Move off to the side.
once you move off to the side, and I'm guessing you do too, Jacob,
Yeah, I'll do that.
that Isk and Thovit are directed to come into that middle portion. And Imyan leads them in a ceremony, steps forward, and is re-engraving something by that mode, that light like acid wash, onto their carapace. And as they are, going through this, it is Imyan that is communicating to the three of you and saying that we give special recognition to Thovit and Isk. They are the only members of our clan and of any living in the city of Chik'Dakdahn that have tested their resource against the Murmuring Sea twice.
Mm.
And you're getting the sense that they would be heroes in this city if they had that kind of like ego-driven, notoriety. But the two don't
Well, they've
react.
got enough of it to have the honor rolls in the first place.
Yeah, so they haven't just yet to display, these are the things that I've done. So respect how I've risked my resource. And then they step out of that and they're about to escort you away. Just a reminder, Zell, did you want to voice anything else?
Yeah,
You
I
had said
do, but
before.
I don't know if this is the appropriate people to voice it to. But you know what? I think I will.
Straight to the general manager about our living accommodations.
Kind of,
Well,
right? Yeah.
We've been promoted so that we're, we don't have seniority on Chitask, but we're on like the same like job title level as Chitask.
Right.
Yeah, really are. You're,
Right.
So,
To maximize our resources, we require a place of privacy where the three of us are together.
Describe this place.
It is a room without hallways with a single door.
And you are blocked out of the conversation altogether. And it's going
we're
on.
not blasted out a window, so
uh,
right direction.
and
Yay!
it stays like you're in this blackout mode for longer than you have ever been with either the council back at the pit before or with Chitask. It goes on for a long period of time.
Are we
And-
realizing we've acclimated to their mental presence, that reverting to the way we've lived our life before this, like, past, I think now it's been like close to a couple weeks, is weird?
To have quiet in our brain.
We're gonna
Yeah.
be thinking
Yeah,
really
that might
hard
be,
to other
yeah,
people.
that'd be strange. Like, that's a reasonable
That
thought.
we've gotten used to kind of
There's always
the
a,
psychic chatter of the city.
yeah, there's
Yeah.
always an Inurriak in your head. Yeah, probably.
Freaky. Gross.
So while that's happening,
let me give another
Oh,
description of this. That as that's happening, it's gone on for a little while, and you guys are still standing there waiting, wondering what does that mean exactly. It seems as though the body movements of some of the council members, that they're not absolutely still as they have been, heretofore, but that they're also like their bodies are moving until some of them actually are making clicking and chirping sounds as though they can't contain themselves
Mm.
and they have too much to say. like they're going to an old mode of communication. It's like, they were, you were taught in Spanish but spoke English from the time you were 3. Well, they've reverted to like cussing in Spanish while they're still talking in English because there's such a debate going on. And then it's quiet. But in the interim, you wanted to do something while this is happening?
Yeah.
Because this goes on for some minutes.
Right. I want to see if I can contact mentally Sincevich, because we've always communicated to them through Chik'Dakdahn.
Right.
So now with this new thing, I just want to see if if they've changed us somehow, being in the center during this vibration, if there's some way that I can reach out to them.
You wouldn't feel it any more than if you tried it yourself right now. It's just, you're just trying.
Right.
But there seems to be no medium for that to act happening. And certainly Isk and Thovid are not reacting, responding to you.
Okay.
Just looking through the Ranger's spell list for things that might help.
Okay.
I do want to this whole conversation is happening right now, so there's not really anyone that we could ask questions to at this moment.
Not really. Not without interrupting the.
Then I will.
And they've blanked you guys.
I will hold my question until they are open or back at the drive-through window.
Save all questions for the end, please.
All right, and then the group of them come back into your head now again, and that's an interesting point you made a moment ago, Boris. That even though Imyan starts talking up again, that on a subtle level, you know that the other 5 are also there too. So you probably are acclimating to always having a Inurriak in your head. That when you're just walking around the city, the Inurriak that were your guard, your mental guard walking through here, that all of them were in your head. It just seemed kind of normal because it happens all the time now.
If we don't leave here without at least proficiency on saving throws against mind-affecting effects, I'm going to think this was a wasted trip.
So in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, there is actually a feat called telepathic.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. I should read up on that. I'm making up my own stuff. All right. So
are they. They're just publishing it.
All right. When they're back into your heads again, it is Imyan that says, you shall be given such a place. And then it's apparent that it's going to Isk and Thovid, and it says, take them to the humans. Take them to Elissad's quarters. And they just nod. And then they start taking steps out, and there's no like preamble. You just would assume you should follow Isk and Thovid.
I'll ask before we get too far.
Yeah.
Saying, is there anyone among you who might be able to teach us how to effectively communicate with your people? Anyone who can show us how to use this?
And once again, you get that they are powerful in a way we could have difficulty containing. Like right now, they're holding the tiger by the tail, but then it cuts off, right? But man, they are so flippin' and it's that, and they seem like stunned, as like emotionless as they seem, stunned at that. But you get no positive feedback from any of them or positive response. Now, within a couple of hallways, you're heading back out of that gallery. You're up an incline. And again, you're looking down into that gallery space and there's the light illuminating through it. They seem to be way down below you in that center 6th ring of this building. Once again in conversation, this council, but you meet back up with Chik'Dakdahn again. The rest of that honor guard seems to be gone. And they start leading you through different circles of the city. And do you have any questions then?
Of the city or of the clan compound?
Of the clan compound, my mistake. That you go outside of that circle, that most inner one, and then to a secondary one. And go ahead. What was that roll? Do you guys recall them that you made for your survival,
32.
Jacob? And what yours was for your siegecraft, Boris?
Like 15.
Okay. And I'm not sure I have anything adjacent for you at this moment, Zelen, but if you just want to roll a straight intelligence on that they're talking now very openly, Jacob and Boris, that in circles of the city, and they're talking about it as in central circle and like a central building and circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that smaller buildings have maybe like circle 1, 2, 3 or 4, maybe 5, and then where you are in relation to that. So everything seems to be in relation to that central tower you were just in just a little bit ago. And you start to note the curves of the hallways and where suddenly, like a parabola, that it's turning the other way, that there's a curve would be part of this tower, and yet it intersects a hall that curves the opposite way, and you know you're into a new tower. So learning this versus these little rectangular buildings and tunnels you'd been in before, it's actually making sense moving through this part of the city where it was clan compound versus the like kind of added on addition, willy nilly, rectangular
Tunneling
tube like
structure.
tunnels,
Okay.
that you guys were in before. And then in one of these side tunnels, and what did you roll for that?
13.
Yeah, so you might be up on some of that, but you're not following it the same way that that Jacob is certainly, or even what Boris is right now. That you are led to a city or a tower that Jacob, it has 4 rings to it, and as you're moving through the hallways that parallel in smaller and smaller rings, you're getting the idea of okay where this building is and where it might be in relation to the other buildings, and then there is a very surface-looking door. And they lead to it, and they go up to it.
Something I had wanted to ask, but you've been discussing
yeah,
this.
Go ahead, yeah.
Who or what is Elicid?
Right, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure. So that was to Chik'Dakdahn. Elicid was a demon from hell that
Okay, so one of us.
Yeah.
that dwelt here under the stone sky a long, long time ago, and it is said that he was a resource of extraordinary power, and because of his power and what he contributed to the clan, that he was granted a place that he could feel more comfort. And since his reuse and repurposing, the place has stood empty. But since you asked so specifically, Zelen, that they would reopen this place and allow you to be, because there's no other place like it in the whole clan compound.
Was he sister?
He was sister cousin. The last sister cousin.
Okay, so a long time ago, there was another surface spellcaster
Yep.
who lived here until his death.
Yep.
With this
Interesting.
whole communication via telepathy, have they had, like, has it always been purely conversational, or have they had the ability of, like, pushing images, or have we been able to push images into their heads?
I know I've attempted it at a number of points.
Yeah, I think that's really reasonable, Jacob, that it would be more than just like a direct translation of words, but you probably have gotten images as well.
I think
I want to ask, what did he look like?
And you are getting that, well, she wouldn't have known. The council, depending on their age, might have known.
Okay.
But that would probably be a question to try to push out there among a different one of the sisters.
Okay.
The
The next time we
need
get
to find
called into the
something
principal's
really,
office.
really old.
Yeah,
Yeah,
much
by
older,
the sound of it.
whatever that would be. Yeah, but but cool idea. But then to
A
put a
thought just
fine
occurred.
point on
They
that,
wouldn't have. This is probably the only room that has dust in because they wouldn't have skin flakes to make
right?
dust.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wild.
So
Man.
yeah, nice. So you can get who he looks like, just like lick a table.
We can rebuild him.
And
I'm going to try asking. Oh, sorry.
but let me say this to Jacob, that you are aware, and it just hasn't. We're just like meta play that you have had images pushed into your head where the word didn't seem quite right.
Okay.
So we'll say that there are images that are used as well as just translational.
Yeah, I think I did that when we were trying to get
Linguistic- yeah,
information
I
about the
think the
Murmuring Sea.
President
that I
was said.
like pushed in the concept of a lake
Right,
and then
exactly.
like the ocean, trying to get
Yeah.
approximate sizes.
Okay, Zelen?
Has anyone who's come here ever been taught to use the language that you use, the telepathy? I mean, I guess I could use the telepathy. I don't know if that she would understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
but-
they get that. They're whatever the equivalent is, it's going to come
Right.
across to them too. And she says, "Of course, Elicid.
Oh. Elicid was taught to use the telepathy?
He taught himself,
He taught himself.
but
Okay.
then he also taught himself speech.
Okay.
The clicks.
Oh yeah. What do you mean by?
Yeah, yeah. That was what would come through.
I'd probably like gesture to my face with that. Trying to kind of mime.
And then Shatask right back at you, almost like talking to a 3-year-old, as like her mouth, mandibles, and what are those things called? Like for a spider,
Calicera?
chelicera. Yeah, the like almost appendage-like
Yeah.
mandible
Arms
thing
with a tooth on one end.
sticking out of its mouth. Yeah, that as its chelicera is moving, clicking together and making sounds.
Oh, these
It-
things just
that
get
it's
so
like-
much worse.
It's like, and in your head is like, yes, I'm talking about talking, and is doing both at the same time. And you've never actually heard Shatask using like the clicks before, the same way that
It does seem kind of the lesser
Sincevich.
communication.
Yeah, it's like, almost like that
the
demeaning.
low
but,
speech.
Right, exactly. So this one, and it's a chitin key is produced. It's manipulated in a lock that seems very different. By the sound of it, the way the tumblers went, Jacob, you'd say that this wouldn't be a metallic lock, that it's made of something else, and who knows how you've been fabricated.
Have we seen any metal work?
And also, why did he make a lock?
Well, who made a lock? Was he locked in here?
Oh, yeah.
Or did he lock it when he left?
See, we're not stuck
The
inside.
very
with him.
next moment, will
I
be a
hold
very
my hand
critical
out for the
moment.
key.
Yeah, and it is not offered. But it's left unlocked. That you have seen metal. I think we had talked about in terms of like old pieces of like armor or helmet. I
Okay.
might have mentioned
So
if I had
more decorative than...
right, yeah, decorative then.
Okay.
But then their weapons themselves are some kind of a mixture of what look like a metal. And gosh, there's a very low chance when you guys move that market. Go ahead and roll a no, I take it back. That would have been passive perception.
I like it.
And I already know Zellen's made it because you said last episode you're
Like
of a 19.
400.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So 19, and then
Hey.
Jacob, Boris, what are yours?
12.
22.
What? The passive?
Yeah, it's a 10 plus your perception.
Oh,
and I
yeah,
have,
and you're an expert. You get double your proficiency.
Yeah.
Oh,
bonus.
wow. So 22, 19, and
12.
normal. Yeah. Okay.
Human.
So
You thought you were nice with your 19.
I did!
yeah, that's pretty high.
Arguably, though, I see best of all because they're relying on whatever decorative light, and I just see in darkness.
Okay.
I
Now,
could cast dark vision.
You both could cast dark
You
vision.
want to see those words again? Dark vision.
and we're not even drinking mules right now. So Jacob and Zellen, that you remember, and I'm assuming we'll just play it that Boris said that out loud.
Mm.
That it makes more sense this way, that you actually saw metal being used in this market. The metal seems to have been iron, and it was coin.
Interesting.
Okay, that makes sense.
They do understand the
Well,
economy.
if their chitin is seems to be a fairly frequent,
Right.
container armor.
Food stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
well, not the chitin. It's what's in the chitin that's eaten.
Yeah, but used a lot.
It's their primary building material. It would make
It
sense
can't also
that
be the Ronnie.
right. Yeah, it
Right.
would make sense that as they're expanding and encountering, more valuable metals, those are set aside as decorative and display things. But iron, which they have no other use for, they just mint as coins.
Right.
Yeah, the smelting process would take a lot of resource,
Yeah,
so it puts value to the iron itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So beyond that, no.
Okay, so you put your hand out for the key and it wasn't offered.
Right.
Do
yeah.
we outrank the people who are holding the keys?
Chik'Dakdahn and no.
No.
I thought we were the same rank as Shatas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's more senior.
I thought it was just,
She has, yeah.
but I'm
she
wondering,
has
so all we did was
seniority.
we held out the hand. What if we actually asked the question?
I
of,
agree.
Could we have the?
I don't think
the
we should say
securing-
could we. I think we say we'll need the key in order to be able to leave this place and leave it secure. We'll need the key.
I am sure at a demonstration of resource, that could be requested, but I have neither the authority nor the ability to, at this point, simply grant that
I'll
to
demonstrate my resources.
Can you?
I
can-
still have my hammer, right?
you. Yeah.
Okay, then I'm not worried. I can just break out if we need to.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were about to kill Shatas. I'm like, no.
I was
I
wondering.
was joking when I said I'll
I was
demonstrate my
wondering if
resources.
you could look at the key closely enough that you could recreate it.
Oh, probably.
just
I mean,
pick the lock.
I'm a rogue. I can just pick the lock.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, it's like, oh yeah, Eldritch Blast, just
Oh, don't.
finger right to the lock and go boom,
Yeah,
and
but-
then just
Yeah, because you don't want to waste an entire whatever those things are called on utility, whatever, and be able to use it as a key. Was that 3.5?
what?
There was something about the warlock, whatever the thing's called. What is that? Eldritch Blast. There was like a utility one where you could actually use it to do things like open up locks.
I remember like the one where you used it as claws, but no, I don't remember that. And I think we're getting a little too far.
I could be having an entire fever dream right now. I'm sure this exists, but I could also have just created something amazing.
We'll find that later and write it down because
Yeah.
maybe we can work
Trademark.
it into 5e rules. Right?
Dibs.
So we've got a lot of that going on so far this game. But anyway, as you enter into the space, Shatask has no desire to enter it with you. Just stays on the outside, outside that door. And whoever the third person is to go in, if you don't close the door, it's closed behind you.
Okay.
Do I hear the sound of tumblers locking behind us?
Well, being non-metallic can be more difficult to hear, but no.
Good.
Is there a locking mechanism on our
Yeah,
side?
looking back at the door.
There
Can
is.
we get out? Okay,
It
good.
looks like you could use the key from either side.
So
But,
no.
but there's not like an additional deadbolt or something
Oh,
like
no,
that.
no,
that we
yeah,
can
okay.
just
Yeah,
not,
it's not like-
not
oh,
a privacy
we
lock.
can unlock
Sorry,
the
misunderstood.
door.
Yeah, that'd be a no. There is no deadbolt.
We
We have
on
one of
this
those little
side.
like bathroom stall, and we just like lock it over.
Okay,
It's
so
very
I'm
minimal.
going to immediately look around to see if there's a torch or something. What's the light in this? What's the light in this room?
Well,
I cast
as-
light.
Yeah, so when
yeah,
so,
yeah, and I mean, I'll cast produce flame.
so the two
but-
of you do those
to
things.
look
Look
around.
around. It looks very much like it's the same kind of like clay, almost like balls of plaster and chitinous materials that have been formed to make it look a little more like you are in a very surface-looking dwelling.
Right.
That's been shaped that way.
So they're
there's-
using whatever kind of mix of stone and drone to make fake bricks.
Yeah,
Kinda.
well, almost like if you plastered the inside, it'd be like one
Okay.
continuous material. But then there are also what must have been expensive in ways of resource goes, pieces of log and what looks like a milled board
Oh wow.
that were made into the wall to give it a look like a country inn or an upstairs bedroom kind of place.
Oh,
So
interesting.
whatever
Wow.
could be done to make it seem that way, that's been done.
So does it look like this guy died and everything was left exactly the same, or does it look like somebody
At-
came through?
At
and
first glance, it does have that look.
okay,
Like if he was heading off on a mission somewhere to do something in this subterranean region, and it isn't like everything's neat as a pin put in its spot. It's just things are sitting about, but it doesn't look as though it had been tossed either. But you're looking into a series of rooms that intersect. There
a
are
series of rooms.
there
okay.
are wall sconces for very standard looking torches, and there are lanterns hanging here about too. And as you start glancing into the rooms, you're in what seems to be like a common room, like a main gathering room. And directly opposite it, there is what looks like a kitchen, like he could make his own food in this place. And there are a number of rooms that are adjoining it down a hallway to either side of that common room that goes to whatever those might go to. If you guys want to start looking around and seeing what's
I
in
want to
this
explore
place.
this
too.
I'd
common
like
room
to-
more.
I'd say call it a history check, and I'll vocalize this to my
Yeah.
compatriots to seeing it like it's like an interior design check to see if I can recognize the way that this is kind of decorated. Would it give any sort of a idea where this guy was from,
Oh, that's an interesting thing.
The
Or
initially
honestly, when?
when this guy's from? Yeah,
that as you're looking at
why
it,
this guy?
Jacob, you're seeing a pattern on the wall without making it out of a roll. But go ahead and roll that. I would think that would be simply a perception. That would make sense. It's perception.
I like
That
that.
as you're just looking at these things and making. Yeah. So it's eye based. Yeah. What'd you roll?
20, unnatural.
Okay. Yeah. So
perception or history, the bonus is the same for me. 3.
yeah. So you're just looking around, kind of like it's the first place you've been,
More
Boris, in
taking
so
inventory
long.
than gauging history.
That seems like you're above ground. It's like been the most above ground place, and it does more than you would expect it to. On some level, you're going like,
Yeah, I bet.
because you
Actually
could actually
decompressing a bit.
sit
We need
in
a few potted
chair
plants or something
that looks
like
like a chair. There's actually standard furniture in here, but Jacob, yours is the more notable one. You put your hand on the wall and just kind of like rubbing like dust and whatever has slowly matriculated through the wall, whatever the settling process for these balls of plaster, whatnot, and you realize that there's some kind of a painting on the wall itself. And the more you look at it, you actually are seeing what looks like mountains in the distance, and
oh, this is so sad.
and you're seeing foreground what might have been painted trees. And there's only one group of people you've known that have done this kind of artwork inside their buildings,
Oh, yeah.
and that's Kremlin.
Ah,
Wow.
I want to make like a
Wow.
So this
behavioral
person,
analysis
how
check.
long ago was this person
Really
here?
old.
I want to make like a behavioral analysis check and see if I can figure out does this seem like this guy was longing to get out of here? Like he was going star craving mad and he drew this out of desperate attempts to kind of be reminded of the surface? Or is he just a skilled artisan?
Are
And
there
this
any
was just
books
something
or
he did to
journals?
kill
Well,
time.
Yeah, I'd love to look
go
around
ahead
for
and make your roll,
papers.
Jacob. And let's say that this plays that you're making this, whatever that roll is, and go ahead and roll it with advantage.
Ooh.
But I'm not going to tell you until 2 hours of in-game time go by, because you're just recording information. Don't even tell me the numbers yet. You're recording information as you go from room to room to room, because there's a lot to see in this place. It looks like it is the refuge of a man trapped underground or living underground for decades. It would have to be decades.
Wow.
As you're seeing the wear, like you notice going into the kitchen area, all the knives are still there, and they're metal knives, like surface kind of knives. There are also stone knives down here as well, but you can see the area that'd be like a butcher's block and a cutting board has significant wear to it. And you just know for looking at it, one person's use, that'd take 40 or 50 years to do that kind of wear to this block of wood, which is its own amazing resource down here too. You're picking up on things like that. Zelen, what did you say you're looking for specifically?
Well, you said when we entered the room that initially it looks like nobody has been in there, that when he died, nothing was touched. So does that mean as I'm moving about the room and really looking around the room, it becomes obvious that that's not actually the case? That
there's nothing that will be obvious in that regard. Go ahead and roll that as an investigation. But like if he had his chair here or a foot that way, there's no telling. But the furniture is not laying on its side. And the stuff seemed to have been sturdily made enough, and most of it is stone or this like plaster and chitin stuff that nothing's just fallen down.
Unnatural 20.
There are a couple of signs that make you think that either over time or something might have happened to imply that somebody else has been through here. The way that things are moved, things are improperly put. There's a set of butcher's knives, like I'd said before, and there are a number of knives in a little rack and in a little holder, and then one is just stuck into the top of the butcher's block. Like he himself would have put it away. It's as though somebody didn't quite know how the thing worked.
Right.
And just stuck it somewhere.
That's weird. Does it look like anything's missing? Like, are there...
That'd be so difficult to tell.
Well, I mean, but if there's dust in here, if this is the only place that has dust, they might not even recognize there's dust, or is there a dust? Is there an outline where something had been sitting and now it's not there anymore?
Yeah, actually, there is not.
Okay.
That whoever would have gone through this room or these rooms must have done so a very, very long time ago.
There's the mark of the gunshot when they
before all of that dander, that dust material matriculated and lay flat and hasn't been disturbed.
So one more question. Does it appear that he lived here by himself?
That's a tough one to say too. So as you went through the rooms, there are some empty rooms that look as though they could be anything. You could make it into a bedroom or into a storage room or into a staging area. There are 2 rooms that have beds in them. And again, they're not like wooden beds from the surface, but they have like a sleeping pallet. And whatever kind of a blanket that is, you'd probably want to see if they can find something else.
Right.
Because they've just gotten so just ratty and gross down here. But it does look as though there was 2 different beds. But did he sleep in one or both? And he traded back and forth. And then 4 other rooms also have those pallets, but no.
How expansive is this suite?
There are 7 rooms to it altogether.
Wow.
There is a commons room that's fairly good sized. There's that kitchen room that adjoins the commons. You could say it's 2 of the rooms are like one double room. There are 4 general purpose rooms, but 2 of them definitely seem like they were used as bedrooms. And then there's 1 room that's a study.
Study.
So I was picturing like a small apartment, and it's actually a small house.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and-
So is
after the source of after he died and the source of what was creating the dust is gone, there would still be, I feel like, footprints of the of any ants that would have come into this area, or Inurriak came to this area. Would I be able to tell if there has been much?
Roll your survival check as a tracking.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
figuring
it's a
out
racist term.
what room? Yeah, what room do they go into if they do come into here?
What did you pick up on?
25.
There's no tracks.
Oh.
But that means that something did come through here at some point, but they would have had to have done that before all the dust settled. So that would mean then that nothing's come through here since maybe
Relatively
the time that the guy
recently, yeah.
died.
So now I'll share that with you guys.
Yeah, so that no one truly has been here for a long. They didn't remove anything before you guys showed up,
okay.
but they might have
Forensics,
removed.
I'm like,
they might have
okay.
removed stuff or moved it around.
I know exactly how much dust one person makes in a year. Looking at the thickness of the dust on here, doing some math, add a 6. He's been dead for, I have no idea.
Just the buildup on the walls itself, you probably guess it's been 100, maybe 80 years.
Well,
something
how
like
long
that,
ago
or-
did the Kremlin Protectorate fall?
Right.
but
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
would've been-
That was like 300 or 400, right?
Yeah, that was hundreds.
Yeah.
Is there
exactly.
anything else that would give us any clues?
Well, Violet would have said last year, but but
Is
anyway.
there anything else that would give us any
And
clues
she lived
about
in ruins.
what this person was? Were they a wizard? Were they a druid? Were they I mean, are there any symbols? Is there a staff leaning against a door
I've been
somewhere?
looking for books,
Are there?
and no one said anything.
Yeah, I hadn't said anything. You did say that. There are no books that are out in that main area, but there are books that are in that study
Because
area.
you said study. The only way we
Multiple
would know it
books,
was a
okay.
study is if there was something obviously.
Yeah, that there's
study
definitely
related.
a stone looking, that material writing desk, and it has writing materials on it, although the ink's dry, and there is something that kind of approximates a quill. It is not a feather. And there's the materials for baking writing, and then a very small library of just a handful of books.
Yeah, I'm looking for anything that would look like a journal as opposed to. I don't even know what without looking through.
Go
it
ahead and
first.
roll a d4, Boris, and roll a d4, Zelen, as you're just like looking to see what kinds of things are here right now.
4.
That
I got a 4 too.
well, you're both looking at it, and since Boris called it first, you're looking at a book. The first one you got to, Boris, you believe it would strike you as being a spell book. That
Oh, okay.
Spell book.
that
Okay.
and so
That'd be wizard then.
right. So choose a different number one. Actually, the way that's set up, when that one's picked up, you see there's one under that one, so you could roll 4 again. Zelen, keep that for 1 too.
Another 4.
Yeah. So that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
That
Another
you're
four.
looking at-
Wait a second. Use
Gotcha.
that, save that for healing word.
that as you're opening this thing up, it is very difficult to read if you can pick up a word or two. And as you're looking at it, you're like, you know what? I've seen this lettering before. And you look over at Boris, and he's just reading. He's not even like slowing down. So it seems to be that it's just written in common, Boris. But
I think we know that about him already, that he can read anything.
That you would say, Zelen, that it looks like it's written in that Kremlin. That it's that, from what Boris has said before, it's later than Bravis, but it has some elements of common in it. So you're catching a word here and
Yeah,
there.
the in-betweeny one.
Yeah, the in-betweeny language.
I think we're just grabbing the books and moving them to Boris, because no matter what, he'll be able to read them.
Well, I think I'd hand the spell book back because our resident quasi wizard would find that more useful than I
Yeah,
would.
there's a thing. Could she use him to translate the spells, they exist in the book, into something that she can read in order to add them to her own spell book?
I think
she can
for
probably
her,
recognize them from her
over
own spell
time.
book,
Yeah, she
or
probably
just
could
like
for that.
kind
yeah.
of discerning magic shenanigans.
They're
But
going to
so
get even more powerful.
Do you two trade books then as you're handing them back and forth?
Yeah, might as well.
So let me ask this, and this is how does this thing work? I have a wizard spell for comprehend language, but I don't have that one prepped. Can I take some time and prep that one so then I
8
can
hours
read
is
it?
a long rest.
Yeah, that'd be your long rest time, and then tomorrow you would have in the 8 hours tomorrow you
so
would have
I
that
could do
ready.
it tomorrow, but I can't do it now.
So the book that she's handed over to you, Boris, as you're looking at it, you can tell that unlike the spell book that had like an initial series of spells in it written in one hand, there was additional spells written in another. This seems to be in that second hand. And this hand, it says very clearly, fundamentals of alchemical brewery up at the top of it. And as you're flipping
He was making
through
beer?
Oh, he was making something.
Yeah, he's making, either, potiony things or beer or whatever he was making.
We're
Why not
so
both?
opening our own tavern when we get back to whatever city.
You've noticed no taverns down here. It could be a market. But
All
and
these
as
poor
you take a
drones.
few minutes to go through them, another one, as it gets handed over to Boris, it reads Stonework Simplified. And again, it looks to be all in the same hand. Like he was
Okay, so
studying
he
and
was-
learning stuff over time.
And he was making these books for himself. These are kind of his notes. These aren't books that were brought down from the surface. These are books that he's created.
Yeah.
He liked it here.
Okay.
Truly. Or
He lived here for 50 years.
or he couldn't get away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one he is titled A Journeyman's Esoterica. And as you start glancing through that one, it is all about recognizing things involving arcana. And maybe from a different perspective because he's writing it down here.
Huh.
But it looks really, really long-haired. Like it would take some really serious reading to get into this to know what this is all about.
Okay.
The last one is simply titled Journal.
Ah, okay. There we go. That's what we're looking for.
And it is, of all of them, the most disorganized of these books, where the other ones all seem to be specific to a point. That this one has things about grammar, about how to speak their language, how to maybe even possibly read their language, and different things on experiments he was doing, different things mapping, trying to get out, looking for the Inurriak's source of power, as well as like ledger informations. But then at the end of it, you can tell that an entire section of the book has been ripped out.
Thanks for listening. Make my decisions for me. Next time we level up, should I take an 8th level of Paladin, a 3rd level in Warlock, or a 1st level in Wizard? Because that's a thing, apparently. Tell me what you think on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Empire's Edge. If you'd rather bribe me into making my own dang decisions, support the podcast at subscribestar.com/the-empires-edge.
As though they're like shrinky dinks you put into the oven, if that means anything to any listener. But they're getting smaller and smaller. Why was that so funny?
I've never heard of that before. But
You've never heard of a shrinky dink?
No, but growing up, all we had was the exact opposite, where you put the little pill with the dinosaur sponge in it, and you just drop it in the water and it gets bigger. We never had toys that got smaller.
These things you actually cut out and put in and like colored them and then put into the oven and they baked and they shrunk.